Well, there's no place better to dairy than Northeast Wisconsin.
Wisconsin is America's dairyland because of farms like this one, Gold Star Dairy Farm in Calumet County.
They're our queens, you know, they've given us a good life.
Deb Reinhardt and her husband took over the family farm in 1975. They raised their children here. It was everything they ever wanted. But now, almost 50 years later, their journey's coming to an end.
This is where our souls live.
They're retiring and selling the farm for $3,575,000. They aren't alone either. According to the nonprofit Dairy Farmers of Wisconsin, the median farmer age in Wisconsin is older than 55. Farm sales and closures are becoming more common.
Smaller dairies just don't have that margin between expenses and income.
But does that mean the Wisconsin dairy industry is in trouble? And what's happening to these farms? Well, the answer is and isn't what you'd expect. You're gonna hear from three people: a dairy farm real estate agent, a dairy farmer, and an executive from the group Dairy Farms of Wisconsin. Is that consolidation good or is that bad for the dairy industry?
I don't think it's good or bad, to be honest with you, James. I think it's how we are evolving.
Dairy in Wisconsin is doing quite well right now.
I don't know that it's a crisis, it's an evolution. Just like, the mom and pop gas stations are now the Quick Trips.
We often read headlines about how bad things are for farmers. So what's the truth? Well, Patrick Gagan with the Dairy Farmers of Wisconsin said the industry at large is fine, especially for big dairy, but it's becoming increasingly difficult for small farms to get by.
At 7,000 dairy farms in Wisconsin, we still have about 25% of all the dairy farm units in the United States.
The dairy industry generates $46 billion a year in Wisconsin. While the number of individually owned dairy farms is down from 180,000 in 1928 to 7,000 today, the number of cows in the state has stayed the same for the past 20 years at about 1.2 million. That means farmers have been able to use those cows more efficiently despite a shrinking number of farms.
And every one of those dairy cows generates about $37,000 in economic activity.
While the industry as a whole is still strong, it's tougher for smaller dairy farms to survive.
It's just the economies of scale. My feed costs have gone up 50%. My fertilizer costs have probably gone up 70%.
They need to scale up their operation to make money, but you have to spend money to make money, and these farmers just don't have disposable funds.
I can't do that anymore because we have outstanding debt on this.
Big farms are better at absorbing those costs than smaller ones. That's why Ron Brath, a dairy farm realtor in Fond du Lac, says farmers are selling their property.
The smaller ones are going out of business, and the larger ones are buying them up. When that happens, normally the small dairy ends up working for the larger dairy.
Some farmers are laid off, but the majority of those farmers are still working. They just don't own the farm anymore.
We're going to have less farmers, no doubt, but the amount of milk produced will always be more.
I don't really have a judgment about whether that's right or wrong. There's always a natural evolution to things, and it's the way of the world, and you have to change.
Bigger companies can buy these farms to bulk up their number of cows and create additional revenue. Smaller farms sell to salvage what money they can.
We have a lot of older farmers on smaller farms that are retiring. They rent the land to the bigger dairies or sell them to them. Just depends upon what their financial status is.
If they don't have debt, they can rent the land, but that's not a luxury Gold Star Dairy Farms has.
It is possible that somebody could come in here and milk these cows. We would leave one day and they could come in the next day. We've got a great staff. It's a working farm. We've got our contracts for feed for the summer. It's meant to be a dairy. It's always meant to have been a dairy.
But that's not up to her. All she can do is count down the days left as a farmer and prepare for retirement.
It's the end of a dream.
A sentiment many farmers in Wisconsin can relate to.
I miss my babies. I miss them. Yeah. We're gonna miss it.
The future of small farms in Wisconsin is unclear, but the dairy industry will continue to thrive in America's dairyland. In Calumet County, James Groh, TMJ4 News.